Welcome back, y'all. This mic stand is like shrinking on me. What's the deal? You got osteoporosis, bro? Hey, there we go. So thank you all so much for tuning in this evening. All 5,673 of you. Wow, what a turnout. Especially for a holiday. Who would have expected that? So we're going to move on through our lovely program for this evening. If you're just tuning in, if you're just joining us, this is the 4th of July Independence Day special on the Owen Adams Music channel. Don't forget to hit that like button if you're feeling the threads. Definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that like button. Share this video with all of the most patriotic people you know. All the Trump supporters, all the Biden supporters, share it with all of them. Everybody, I think, of any political persuasion will be able to get something valuable out of this broadcast. I have a very balanced message for you guys tonight, and the title of the show is Star-Spangled Lies. And the reason why I picked that title is because when we think of propaganda, we tend to make it a malicious, angry, negative kind of topic. But as we're about to discuss in a moment, it's not always the case. It's not always a negative thing. And actually, a lot of great music has come out of propaganda, namely the World War II music that was created. In many cases, it was commissioned by the government. I want to share with you guys some songs from around this time, from the 40s. And I think this is really interesting. So the first song that we have here is by a jazz group called the Andrews Sisters. And they were a vocal trio, and they did these wonderful 3-part harmonies. They did music videos, if you can believe that, in black and white video. And one of the songs that they have that didn't really become super popular, but it sort of defined the time. And this is a song called Any Bonds Today. Now, I want to say a little quick summary of what this song is going to be about. This is basically propaganda. Now, I don't know for sure if the government paid the Andrews Sisters to make this song, but it is a fact, and it is on record, that the government did, in fact, pay musicians on multiple occasions. They infiltrated the music industry, and they did pay musicians to make songs to drum up the war effort. And this song is called Any Bonds Today. It's about buying war bonds. And just really quickly, the war bond hustle, I guess you could call it, was everybody buy a bond, and that will ensure that we win this battle. And all you have to do is kick us a couple of bucks to old Uncle Sam, and we're going to have your back. And not only that, but we'll give you a wonderful, amazing, 3% return, 5% return on your investment. So basically, it was kind of a big racket. But you can hear the Andrews Sisters happily singing along, trying to convince all of the, smart little sheeple to just buy those bonds from the freedom man and ensure your stake in, a free America. And if you don't buy the bonds, we might lose. And it's a little bit of a guilt trip. So keep that in mind as we listen to a little bit of this song here by the Andrews Sisters. Let's take a look.
Won't you buy some bonds today? Oh yes, we'll all be blessed if we all invest in the USA. Here comes the freedom man. Can't make tomorrow's plan, not unless you buy a share of freedom today.
So that was the Andrews Sisters. Any bonds today, right? So next up, we got an interesting one. And I must have sat here listening to about 7.5 hours of 1940s jazz and blues music to come up with these next couple of examples here because they're actually kind of cool songs. This next song is called "I Got the Rationed Blues," or "Ration Blues," as they say in the song. And rations were basically a limitation on the amount of stuff that you could buy from the supermarket or from the store in general. And so this song was written to say, hey, watch out how much steak you're buying, watch out how much sugar and syrup, and be real careful because we got to have enough stuff left over for the soldiers and the Marines out there fighting for our country overseas. But it's actually a really funky song. It's a really bluesy, cool, kind of soulful tune. So let's hear this beautiful bluesy "I Got the Ration Blues."
Baby, what's wrong with Uncle Sam? He's cut down on my sugar, now he's messing with my ham. I got the ration blues, blue as I can be. Oh, me, I've got those ration blues. I gotta live on 40 ounces of any.
All right, so that is the Ration Blues. It's a really funky tune, right? There's some great like sax work in there. There's some great like trumpets, and you can see the kind of production value and editing and the type of content that was being put out there on the airwaves. What is this? 70 years ago, right? A lot of you guys aren't even that old. This is before all of y'all's time. So I thought that was kind of cool. I really dig that song. Now, finally, I have a song here called "First Class Private Mary Brown." And this is a song written by a male vocalist, but it's about women fighting in the military, becoming privates, and going overseas and fighting. And it's kind of funny because you can hear some of the sort of stereotypical male mindset of the time, but it's still pretty progressive for the 1940s, I think. And this idea that women can fight alongside men in the military as well, that has been debated and argued over very recently, and they were talking about this so long ago. And this is really interesting to me, and it's also a pretty cool tune as well. So let's cue up First Class Private Mary Brown.
First Class Private Mary Brown, she wore that uniform like $1 million gown. How my heart would leap when she drove her Jeep with the one big stripe on her arm. And it seemed to me that a PFC meant perfect feminine charm. First class private Mary Brown. Oh, how she smiled goodbye when they shipped us out of town. Let the big guns roar, let us win this war, 'cause I wanna hurry right back to first class private Mary Brown, my wonderful whack.
So there it is. First Class Private Mary Brown, my wonderful whack. And that's an acronym, the WAC, which I don't know. So it's kind of interesting. That's what the lyrics say. I'm sure people knew at the time what they were talking about, but it's interesting because you can hear the man singing about, oh, she still has feminine charm, even though she's in like this very masculine, military uniform. So really interesting read on the types of mindsets and the thoughts and the ideas floating around at that time. And these are ancient songs. These are probably like recorded on those little wax cylinders. I'm sure this is before even vinyl records were around. But still a fairly progressive song, I think. Just the idea that's a thing that women can do. It started a little earlier than probably a lot of folks today think. Everybody wants to make it sound like there's this big cultural divide in the world. It's like people were kind of discussing that and trying to figure that out many, many, many decades before you came along. So, so it's kind of interesting to me. I really dig that aspect of the music back then. And you can see again the video clips of the Marines and the soldiers. And they wanted people to feel like they belonged to a winning team. And I feel like we're losing some of that today. We're missing out on some of that. But anyway, some of the other stuff that was going on during World War II was the government intrusion and infiltration of Hollywood, the music industry. They had a lot of FBI surveillance of artists, musicians, playwrights, movie writers, producers, and they were trying to maintain a pretty strict control over the type of content that was being dispersed because they didn't want a whole lot of treasonous traitor mindsets going out there. And today it's like we don't even think about it that way. We're just like, no, we all have the right to speak out, and that's just the way it is. And so keep in mind, this is several decades before Watergate and a lot of the big scandals with the presidents and all that. There's actually a great movie. If you haven't seen it, there's a great movie about this time in history called Trumbo, Trumbo. And this is about a communist sympathizer during the Red Scare, where, of course, there was a lot of fear about communism taking over the United States at this point. And there was a lot of paranoia and fear of the movie writers trying to sneak in this propaganda in their films. And so that's what was going on at the time, and they were so scared. They actually had agents that posed as what do you call it? Like not producers, but like pitch guys that would meet with these writers, and they would like have secret meetings and go undercover, and then they would take that data back to the government and be like, "Oh, dude, this dude's definitely a communist. We got to go get him." And so Trumbo was one of these guys. He was a great, fantastic, talented movie writer, and they came after him. They blacklisted him. They actually had a list of censored content creators from Hollywood. And what ended up happening is this guy Trumbo had to write his movies under aliases, and I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but he had to pretend to be another person in order to make a living, in order to work his job. Now, you might think that it couldn't have possibly gotten much worse than that. But today we have a very similar phenomenon happening on social media and on YouTube and on Facebook. There are blacklists to this day. Now, they may not be communists on that blacklist. They might be a different ideology. But I'm not going to get into that. You can research that on your own. You can look into the shadow banning and the blocking and the censoring and the deleting and the banning and etc. But the general point of this time is that, yes, there was a lot of propaganda. There was a lot of government ideologies enforcing themselves in the music business and in the movie business. But for the most part, it was the non-propaganda types of music that became more popular. And the reason this is because when there's a lot of division, when there's a lot of scary, tumultuous stuff going on in the world and in your country, generally people don't want to be reminded about that. They want their music to be like a form of escapism. They want to feel good. They want to be entertained. They want to be told everything's okay and we're just going to hang out and we're just going to dance and party it up. And so songs that were written more to that effect became more popular, whereas propaganda didn't really sell that well, but I still think it did its job, right? Nowadays, something like, 75, 80, some percent, some vast majority of people distrust the government. They distrust the media. And I think that's great, actually. I think that's better than everybody just being a sheep and just following along and doing whatever Uncle Sam tells you to do.